Hello and welcome to the West Asia Post with me, Ghadi Francis. This is our weekly show where we bring you all the latest updates and stories from this region that I call home. Our top story today is about the news of the hour. As you all know by now, Queen Elizabeth II passed away at the age of 96. Now, when she ascended the throne, Britain was dominant here in West Asia. It supported monarchies with the help of the crown and its imperial influence. But slowly, its power started crumbling. After its withdrawal, Britain built strategic partnerships with the Gulf states. Here's where the royal family played a major role. It helped safeguard these relations in the region. So our top story is about how Britain's power waned in West Asia during the Queen's rule. Let's take a look.
Queen Elizabeth II ascended the throne in 1952. Britain at that time was a dominant power in West Asia. Over her reign, its power waned in the region. It was a period of troubled decolonization. But one where the monarchy played a bigger role than usual. The first was in Iran. Britain had close ties with the Shah of Iran. The 1953 coup was a perfect illustration of that. Reza Shah Pahlavi was propped up, overthrowing his democratically elected prime minister. Why?
In the military court at Tehran, where he's been on trial
because Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh had nationalized Iran's oil industry, a move that put it at loggerheads with Britain. The Queen did not author the coup. That was UK Prime Minister Churchill and US President Eisenhower's idea. But what she did was strengthen relations with the Shah.
The Shah of Iran, or Persia, as we always used to call it.
She formed a personal relationship with him. In 1959, she received him as an official guest, all as oil profits flowed once more to the UK.
Must have been pleasing to Her Majesty's guest.
This isn't the only autocracy that the monarchy backed. Its imperial influence could be felt across West Asia, especially with its support for the royal regimes UK put in place. We are talking Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, and the Gulf Emirates. In Jordan, the current ruling Hashemites came from the Arabian Peninsula. They launched the revolt against the Ottoman Empire during World War I, enjoying the backing of a wartime alliance with Britain. What they hoped for was an independent Arab state, one that would stretch across much of West Asia. But it didn't work like that. Britain and France carved up the Ottoman Empire after the war. They broke promises and drew arbitrary borders. Borders that guaranteed years of conflict.
The words of the prophet Jeremiah. Thus saith the Lord, refrain.
In Israel and Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. King Abdullah I was given Jordan, a swath of desert populated by nomadic Bedouin. He was the great-grandfather of Jordan's current king, Abdullah. His brother Faisal was placed on the throne of Iraq, loosely based on ancient Mesopotamia. The British helped establish both kingdoms in an English mold. Jordan got a British-style bureaucracy. In Iraq, a band played God Save the King at Faisal's coronation.
From his uncle, who has been regent for 14 years.
Both suffered the wrath of Arab nationalism that erupted after World War II. Abdullah was assassinated by a Palestinian nationalist in 1951. Iraq's King Faisal II was killed in a bloody 1958 coup. The Queen's long reign saw most of West Asia cast off London's rule, but a handful of British-installed monarchies still survive here. They have survived decades of war and turmoil. Now they are seen as bastions of authoritarian stability. When the Arab Spring erupted a decade ago, there was fear among the regimes, but these hereditary rulers were largely unaffected. The days of imperial pomp and gunships may be over, but the region's emotional and fictional ties to England run deep. Emirs, sultans and kings attend the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst. Gulf wealth helps reshape London's skyline. Heirs to the tribal leaders boast of second homes in the UK. They talk about their degrees from British universities. They pour millions into the British economy, buying up luxury property and Premier League football clubs.
Of Syria and Mrs. al-Assad.
Britain's support for all these regimes was backed by the monarchy. The British royal family played an essential role here. They maintained an autocratic model of diplomacy and established personal relations with regimes, including the ones in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Oman. Images of the Queen laughing with the ruling elite signal a strong relationship. All of these Arab monarchies were modern-day creations. So they had to create a monarchical myth about themselves. This is where the British royal family came. They gave them a ready-made blueprint on how to operate. The Queen may have overseen Britain's crumbling power here, but she helped it forge and maintain decades-long connections. West Asia Bureau, WION, World is One.
From Iran nuclear talks to Iraq, Lebanon and Qatar's World Cup, we have a lot more lined up for you in this edition of the West Asia Post. But first, as usual, let's take a quick look at what's making the headlines across the region.
Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi has said that U.S. sanctions must be lifted to reach a nuclear agreement, and there must be guarantees established to ensure their lasting removal. Families continue to look for survivors as Jordan's building death toll rises. Authorities now say 10 people have died since Tuesday's collapse of a residential building in Amman. Iran has signed a memorandum of obligations to become a permanent member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This as leaders of SCO states gather in Uzbekistan's Samarkand for the summit. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi concludes his two-day visit to Qatar after a meeting with the Gulf state's emir, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and the signing of a number of deals between the two countries. The United Nations has warned that a continuing cholera outbreak presents a serious threat to people in Syria. The outbreak is connected to severe water shortages caused by drought, destruction of infrastructure. The Arba'in pilgrimage has brought millions to the Iraqi city of Karbala as hundreds of thousands gathered to commemorate the end of the 40-day mourning period for the death of Imam Hussein, Prophet Muhammad's grandson. Dubai has been ranked the best student city in the Middle East, according to the QS Best Students Cities ranking 2023. International students make up more than 85% of the student body at Dubai universities.
Here in Lebanon, another bank hostage drama has rocked the country. An armed woman and her associates entered a Beirut bank, and they left with $13,000 in cash. Now here's the catch. It was from her own money, and it was for cancer treatment for her sick sister. It wasn't the first incident of such. It was only a month ago when something like that happened. In Lebanon, since 2019, Lebanese banks have imposed a withdrawal cap due to the crippling economic crisis. This is not the first time that this has happened, and it is most likely not going to be the last. We tell you the details.
It looked like a scene out of some Hollywood thriller. An armed woman entering a bank. Along with her were a group of associates. Bank employees were held hostage. They wanted to access funds in the bank. Except these funds were her very own money.
وهي تقول أن هذه العملية لم تكن الأخيرة لأنه في حالة إنسانية حرجة جدا. أصحاب الودائع بحاجة إلى ودائعهم لمعالجة هذه الحالات، وأبرز هذه الحالات تتعلق بالصحة وبمعالجة ناس بالمستشفيات اللي ما بقى عم تتقاضى إلا بالدولار الأمريكي. إذن هأن وتهديد من مودع.
The woman was identified as Saleh Hafiz. Her mother says Hafiz took the money from her own account. It was to treat her younger sister who has cancer.
I have nothing more to lose. I got to the end of the road. 2 days ago, I went to the branch manager and begged him, told my sister is dying. She doesn't have time. After giving me a hard time, he finally said he can give us $200 a month at the rate of 12 million Lebanese pound. That will be 2,400,000 Lebanese pound, which is not even the price of an injection that my sister needs to take daily. It is shame to say this, but I got to a point where I was going to sell my kidney so that my sister could receive treatment, because what is the point of life if I see her dying in front of my eyes without me doing anything?
This is not the first time this has happened in Lebanon. There were similar incidents in Beirut in August. The country is going through a crippling economic crisis. Lebanese banks have limited withdrawals of hard currency. They say they make exceptions for humanitarian cases. But such exemptions are very rare. To Lebanon citizens, this woman is a hero, one who was fighting for her own rights.
What happened today, in all simplicity, is that a depositor came and took what belongs to her. We have been asking the state for the last 3 years. We have demanded and protested in peaceful ways, and no one showed any interest in our cause. It is pushing the depositors to take their rights into their own hands.
There are people who want to be treated, but they do not have money for treatment. They entered and took their money from the bank and threw gasoline. And there were people wounded and clashes with the security forces. They left the bank and the security forces chased us. There were scuffles. Some escaped, some were arrested.
So just how bad is the situation in Lebanon? This is Lebanon's worst economic crisis in modern history, posing the biggest threat to its stability since the civil war. The currency has lost 95% of its value. Foreign currency reserves have dropped dangerously low. GDP plunged to $20.5 billion in 2021 from $55 billion in 2018. This is a kind of contraction usually associated with wars, driving up prices and demolishing purchasing power. Lebanon's banks have frozen ordinary depositors out of dollar accounts. Withdrawals have been severely limited. Crushed under a mountain of debt, decades of corruption and scandals, and a financial meltdown like no other, Lebanon is facing its worst crisis since the civil war, and there seems to be no end in sight. West Asia Bureau, WION, World is One.
Football's biggest festival, the Qatar World Cup, is just few days away. And Qatar pledged to be the first ever carbon-neutral World Cup. But its green goal seems elusive right now. Why? Because of daily shuttle flight between Gulf nations for matches. In our next report, we explain how travel could be the biggest polluter during this sporting event.
Qatar is preparing for football's biggest festival, the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Less than 100 days from now, these stadiums will be packed with frenzied fans, screaming at the top of their voices. It is the first World Cup to be held in West Asia, the biggest event to take place in the Arab world. And Qatar is leaving no stone unturned. But not just Qatar. The World Cup promises boom time for Dubai hotels. Thousands of fans will descend on the Gulf city and live there, especially due to limited accommodation in Qatar. But the environmental cost of this has raised questions. Most of these fans will be transported by planes, travelling a distance of around 400 kilometers for match days. Qatar wants to be the first ever carbon-neutral World Cup. But daily flights to and from Dubai may overshadow this pledge.
There aren't that many hotel rooms available in Doha, so a large number of people will be coming to Dubai, and the number of slot requests we've had for DWC from a number of airlines suggests that that will be a very popular option for a lot of people. So we expect the traffic to be pretty big and pretty busy to and from the World Cup in the balance of the year, and are currently working through the slot requests, particularly from Fly Dubai, Qatar Airways and Wizz Air, the three main carriers that have applied.
State-owned Qatar Airways has organised a shuttle service operated by regional airlines in and out of Doha on match days. This includes at least 60 daily flights to and from Dubai. The World Cup is expected to produce 3.6 million tons of carbon dioxide. Travel is the largest contributor. It accounts for 52% of the total emissions. To ease the hotel squeeze, Qatar is building temporary accommodation. They will be on the outskirts of Doha. Cruise ships will also anchor off the coast, offering accommodation to World Cup fans. But hotels in Dubai are already reporting strong bookings in the fourth quarter, particularly during the 4-week football tournament.
We're seeing a lot of demand for the World Cup across the Rove Hotels portfolio. We have advanced bookings up to 300% ahead of 2019 already. What we're seeing is a lot of people are booking further in advance and inquiring already for Q4. I think there's a lot more confidence about travel and things returning.
Climate advocates have already raised their doubts. They say the tournament cannot be carbon neutral.
Carbon neutrality can only be achieved if there is an effective reduction of emissions and not compensation. What the Qatar is claiming is that they would offset their carbon emissions. And the problem with offsetting is that basically it doesn't work. You need to reduce emissions and not just to offset them.
Even though Qatar says it is purchasing credits to offset emissions. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
And now to the land known as Mesopotamia. When we say Mosul, it is often associated with the ISIS or war, but the city is a treasure trove of culture. a link to heritage and history, one that Iraq is trying to revive using tourism and virtual reality. We bring you the story.
Long known as the cradle of civilization, Iraq is home to more than 10,000 cultural heritage sites. But in 2014, ISIS captured a third of the country in a lightning offensive. The northern city of Mosul was their stronghold. For the next 3 years, they vandalized cultural sites, even destroying some of them completely. Now Baghdad is trying to revive these sites through virtual reality. A group of local engineers have given a virtual rebirth to 5 historic sites in Mosul by using thousands of photographs from the area.
When I saw those virtual scenes, I was carried to a different world, wishing that the virtual was the reality. I experienced with joy and traveled to another world 40 years back in time. So I lived those moments as if they were years. And when I came back to reality, I felt sad. I wish it was reality.
The most crucial site to be revived is Al-Nouri Mosque. The mosque was the highlight of the old city. The ISIS is said to have planted explosives in the mosque before their withdrawal. Only the minaret's base survived. VR technology has been used to recreate heritage sites before, but this exhibit brings sites back to life for the people of Mosul.
Many children have never seen the Al-Nouri Mosque and its Al-Habda minaret. We try through virtual reality to let the persons experience visiting those sites and retrieve those memories.
But it is not just virtual reality that is bringing back tourists. Ancient ruins in the war-scarred nation are also opening up, trying to turn over a new leaf after the brutal ISIS rule. Strolling along the ancient ruins of Hatra in Iraq's north, a dozen of visitors admired the site. Hatra dates back to the 2nd and 3rd centuries BC. It is a 2-hour drive from Mosul. A tour of the site aims to boost tourism in the area, one that has been designated as an endangered World Heritage Site by UNESCO.
So the feelings we have when we are visiting Hatra are mixed feelings, because it has great history, many gods who were worshipped here. It's beautiful, a beautiful structure, a lot of history, but at the same time a lot of unfortunate events that took place here with IS.
Hatra was an important religious and trading center under the Parthian Empire. It had imposing fortifications and magnificent temples, blending Greek and Roman architectural styles with the Oriental decorative elements. In 2015, ISIS released a video showing its militants destroying a series of structures, firing at them and hacking away at a statue with a pickaxe.
I have very negative feelings when I think about what happened here during the time of IS, when I see bullet holes, when I see bullets on the floor, because this is history, this is world heritage, and they have pretty much destroyed some of it.
Iraq is gradually opening up to foreign tourism. Dozens of visitors, particularly from the West, are now exploring the country. Some are even venturing into Mosul. First the war, then the ISIS rule, and now the political instability has killed Iraq's tourism sector. But the war-scarred nation is now trying to change that. They want to show the world that Mosul is not just about war or ISIS. It is also about civilization and culture. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, bringing you more stories from the world's most volatile region. Until then, stay safe. I'm Ghadi Francis, coming to you from the middle of Beirut, Lebanon, and you're watching WION World is One.